I will also say though that production tried to do Summit dirty. I feel like for some of these bonfires, this is a couple that production was grasping at straws to make the significant others feel bad. So, the next couple I want to discuss from this latest season of Temptation Island on Netflix is Summit and Kaylee, who I guess this is a spoiler alert, and you probably shouldn't watch this if you haven't watched the whole season, but they are the only couple that ended up staying together after this Temptation Island season. I have less to say about them than the final two couples I will talk about over the next few days, but I still do want to talk about these two since they were a couple on the show. And, they actually lasted. Their whole storyline kind of revolved around two things. One, that Summit has commitment issues, and he admitted that in confessionals, and it was one of their problems coming in. He admitted in confessionals that this is only his second serious relationship ever. The bigger problem in their relationship seems to be how Summit makes Kaylee feel. It seems as though he has a knack for making her feel insecure, as if she is not his actual type, like her body's not good enough sometimes. The whole story thread throughout was not if Kaylee would ever cheat or not or be tempted, but her complaining a lot to the guys and to the other girls about how Summit sometimes makes her feel. Summit, meanwhile, came into this show really seeming to want to explore. He mentioned many times throughout the season that he wanted to make sure that he got the full Temptation Island experience coming in. He wanted to really get to know the single girls and I guess see if he would actually be tempted. We saw him first hit it off with Julianne, I believe her name was, who he found easy to talk to. And right off the bat, they seemed to have fun together. Later on, he would also be into Jasenia, I believe is her name. I think he was more so attracted to her physically, but I don't think they connected like he and Julianne seemed to connect. Now, as I said, Kaylee's big problem with Summit was that he makes her feel insecure and the whole body type thing, like she doesn't have the body type that he actually likes, which is why I say he did seem to be into the other girl, Jasenia, if for her body type. She was the one that loved to talk about her booty, so I think that was the whole thing there. Now, at the first bonfire, Kaylee sees Summit telling Julianne about how sometimes Kaylee doesn't like how outgoing he is. And he was talking to Julianne about Kaylee, acting like Kaylee is kind of a problem, kind of a drag in their relationship. Of course, Kaylee saw that as being disrespectful, and it kind of was. And then during the first bonfire, Summit saw that Kaylee is talking about how Summit sometimes puts her down, makes her feel insecure, and that would be the continued theme for this couple. I will also say, though, that production tried to do Summit dirty. I feel like for some of these bonfires, this is a couple that production was grasping at straws to make the significant others feel bad, because there was a game of Never Have I Ever when the guy's villa was drinking and whoever was out first in Never Have I Ever was supposed to kiss the person that they wanted to kiss. And Summit was the first person out of Never Have I Ever. And he made it seem like he was going to kiss one of the girls, but then he faked it and ended up attempting to kiss Mikey, one of the guys, as like a joke. But then when they showed that moment in the bonfire clip showing to Kaylee, they cut it right when it seemed like Summit was going to kiss one of the girls. So they really did try to make Summit look bad at some of these bonfires, make him look worse than he actually did. But during the second bonfire, Kaylee sees Summit's date with Jasenia, and like I said, the cutoff that it made it seem like he was going to kiss Jasenia, but then he really attempted to kiss Mikey. And then at Summit's bonfire, he is listening to Kaylee talking about how Summit belittles her and doesn't know what he gets out of making her feel bad about herself. And so Summit is telling the other girls what he's seeing at these bonfires, that Kaylee seems to think he's a really trash boyfriend, and he doesn't understand why she's with him if he is such a trash boyfriend like she's making him out to be. She did tell this story about one time when she was sad and there were guys over with a couple of girls, and she ended up crying, and instead of staying with her while she was crying, he said he was going to go hang out with the guys, and he did in another room while she was crying. I was trying to figure out the whole time if Summit is really this big asshole that she is making him out to be, or if she is super sensitive to a lot of the things that he says and is maybe just more insecure in general than she was playing herself up to be. Like, while she was away from Summit, there were times where it seemed like she was feeling better about herself, and like maybe it was Summit's problems or the things that Summit says or does that actually makes her feel insecure. But I do feel like she might just have an insecurity issue of her own that doesn't necessarily involve him. Of course, the single guys come into this show trying to get with the girls in a relationship. Zach was someone that I think bonded with Kaylee. I think it only ever stayed at a friendship level, though. But Kaylee kept opening up to him about how Summit makes her feel. And Zach would always tell Kaylee that nobody should feel like their partner is always belittling them, and there has to be a breaking point. Another guy, Chris, ended up bringing her a note at one point saying that she is enough. And despite all of this, I don't think any of this ever really, I guess, made her want to leave Summit. At one of the other bonfires, Summit is listening to Kaylee talking about how, again, Summit belittles her, and some of the other times he made her feel like crap. And then at the bonfire for Kaylee, she hears Summit saying that he sacrifices a lot and he's not appreciated in the relationship, and asking why Kaylee is dating him if he is a shitty boyfriend. There was also another clip of him getting a lap dance, but again, I feel like this was production doing him dirty, because it wasn't actually a lap dance. It was more of a strip tease. There was no touching. He was just watching, and it's not like he asked for that to happen. It just happened on one of the Guy Villa's drunken nights. So overall for this couple, I feel like production tried their best to make Summit look worse than he actually was. And it didn't really work in the end. These two did end up staying together. At the final bonfire, I guess they both admitted to having a challenging time here. They both agreed that they didn't make emotional, deep connections with other people. They just made friends. Kylie, I guess, came out of this experience being taught what she deserved in love and what she might be missing in this relationship with Summit. She does feel like some days she is putting in more in the relationship than he is. And he has admitted that this is only his second serious relationship and that he has commitment issues. And that could be a thing. I do feel like at times during this season, Summit came off as someone who wants his cake and to eat it too. He wants this relationship with her, but he also definitely came into this show wanting to explore and see if he could have some cake that he could eat too. But in the end, Summit is saying that he discovered that he has told her things that made her feel like she is not enough, and he said that she is enough and she shouldn't change for anyone. And I guess that is what she needed to hear to stay with him. I think she was looking to see if he grew through this experience, and I guess by him saying that, it made Kaylee think that he did change, but it could have just been lip service on his end. We don't really know if he really did learn from this experience, but they did decide to live together, and he's saying he wants to take the next big step in their relationship and actually move in together and get a dog, which is more things that she wanted to hear. After the season has ended, I've tried to look to see if they're still together, and they do still follow each other on social media, but they don't seem to live together. So it doesn't seem like they ever did take that next step and move in together. Plus, I think they still live in separate cities now, and I don't know if that's a clue that they're actually still together. But at least both did a good job of resisting temptation on Temptation Island. They end up staying together, even though it seems like from Kaylee's perspective that their relationship isn't exactly something that makes her feel great. So I don't know if they should have stayed together. But I guess they are supposed to be our success story for this season, which is why I don't have a lot to say. But I will have a lot to say about these last two messy couples. Well, one's a really messy couple, and the other one's a really annoying couple, at least one half of that couple. So we will get to that in the coming days.